Good afternoon and welcome to the Considering Purchasing a Heat Pump webinar. My name is Sam and I'm representing the CleanBC Community Energy Coach. Our program supports communities, local governments, and industry stakeholders in the promotion of CleanBC rebate programs and the education of heat pumps. The information on this webinar was recorded on April 20th, 2021, and reflects the rebate amounts available at this time. We are also joined today by my colleague Elena, who will be presenting for you, Sarah Malesko with the Township of Langley, and Caitlin Hinton, a policy analyst in the Community Clean Energy Branch with the Ministry of Energy, Mines, and Low Carbon Innovation. I encourage everyone to use the chat box for any questions during this webinar. Myself and Caitlin will be monitoring the chat and we'll do our best to answer any questions along the way. There will also be a short Q&A period at the end of this webinar. We would like to acknowledge with respect the Coast and Strait Salish and Wasanich people on whose traditional unceded territory we are presenting on today, and the Lekwungen, Songhees, Esquimalt, and Wasanich whose historical relationships with this land continue to this day. We would also like to acknowledge the traditional territories of the Coast Salish peoples and in particular acknowledge our relationship with the Katsi, Kwantlen, Matsqui, and Simiamu First Nations. I'll now hand things off to my colleague Elena.
Thanks so much, Sam. And I'd also like to take a quick moment to welcome all of you to this webinar. And I am very happy and I would like to thank you that you took a chunk out of your busy days to learn more about heat pumps. Before we jump right in, I just want to talk about a few quick things what you can expect to learn about today. So first of all, we will, of course, introduce you to heat pumps and how they work. Then I will go over a few types of heat pumps that we most commonly see in BC and why we are so excited about heat pumps in general. I will provide some tips of things that you should know before you buy a heat pump and also things that you should know when you have a heat pump. We will go over what people say about heat pumps who have already installed them. And of course, I will talk about rebates and other heat pump related incentive programs available. Lastly, I want to talk about the CleanBC Better Homes program and also the CleanBC Energy Coach service before we start the Q&A. Sam and Caitlin will monitor the chat box to answer as many questions as possible that they will also read out in the end to answer some questions for everybody. Okay, so first of all, what is a heat pump and how does it work? So a heat pump is an electric heating system that can heat and cool your home. So you can actually use it as air conditioning as well. And the great thing about heat pumps is that it is 3 to 4 times as energy efficient as any other electric heating system like electric baseboards or an electric furnace. And also a heat pump is in BC the most climate friendly heating system available. We are very lucky here in BC that we have hydroelectricity. So the electricity that we have is almost carbon neutral, which makes the heat pump not only the most efficient heating choice, but also the most climate friendly one here. Now, I would guess that most of you, in fact, have a heat pump at home already. And you guessed right, it is your refrigerator, which in fact is just a insulated box with a type of heat pump in it. And I'll show you how that works. I hope everybody can see my mouse here.
No, so your I can't see anything.
Sorry?
I can't see anything.
Sam, could you maybe in the chat box talk to anyone who has technical issues?
Yep, please use the chat box, guys, and I'll try and help you out. And just a reminder, I will mute everyone as well, and we'll just make sure that Ellie's able to unmute herself here.
Thanks, Sam. Okay, yeah, I will go on. So in your refrigerator, there are refrigerant lines, just like that gives it the name. And those refrigerant lines, they can absorb heat energy from your fridge and move it from the inside of the fridge to the inside of your home. So basically they just cool your groceries and your vegetables by removing heat and moving it to a different place. I know we all try to avoid looking behind what's behind our fridges, but if you do, you will realize that there's warm air coming out. And that is because with this compressor here in the fridge, the heat gets dumped to the inside of the home. And a heat pump works very similar. I'll show you how. So we have one very common type of heat pump here, a central system heat pump. We have a home here, that's the inside of the home, and this is the outside of the home. And the compressor that we have in a refrigerant as well sits here in the outdoor model. And then the refrigerant lines are in this model here as well, and they are connected to the indoor unit model as well. So what the heat pump does is that the refrigerant in these lines, they are very, very sensitive and they can absorb heat even at very low temperatures. So even on a cold winter day, the refrigerant absorbs heat energy here from the ambient air. And then the compressor that sits in here uses a little bit of extra electricity to pump that up to a higher temperature level. So then the very high pressure hot refrigerant is then moved into the home and released through the ductwork in the home. And you can reverse the cycle. So the way it cools a home is just by setting your thermostat, you can put it in air conditioning mode. And then let's say you have a very hot, humid summer day, the air inside the home is really hot and the refrigerant here will absorb the heat from the inside of your home, move it to the outside, and then dump it into the outside of the air outside the home, which then cools the inside of your home. So it's a very, very genius system. And while, like I said, while the efficiency of a heat pump decreases with lower temperatures, even on cold days, there's still a lot of heat energy in the air that the refrigerant can absorb. So now I've just shown you one type of heat pump that is very common, and that is the central system heat pump. There are many different types of heat pumps in the world, but these are the ones that I'm going to show you are the two most common ones here in BC. So we got that central system, which is called central system because it works basically like your furnace with ductwork throughout the whole house that provides forced air, heating and cooling. And this is kind of what it looks like on the outside of the home, this box with a fan. And for those central system heat pumps, they are commonly all electric, but you can choose to have a propane or natural gas backup for this heat pump for very cold days where the gas or propane furnace would only kick on if it's really too cold for the heat pump. And we call them a dual fuel heat pump because they use propane or gas and electricity. So most of you are in the Township of Langley or in the Lower Mainland where a fossil fuel backup is really not necessarily required because the climate in the Lower Mainland and on Vancouver Island is mild enough for an all-electric heat pump to function very well. Those heat pumps can come with an electric backup system for those odd, very cold days. But it is absolutely up to you and to your consumer choice what kind of heat pump you want for your home. And we will talk about how you can find a contractor that can really give great recommendations of what's best for you and your home. And then we got this other very popular heat pump here in BC. It's called a ductless heat pump. Sometimes it's also called a mini split or multi-split, or basically a ductless mini split heat pump. That works the exact same way as the central system. However, it usually comes with a smaller outdoor unit that looks somewhat like this. And instead of having ductwork throughout the whole house, it uses commonly those indoor heads here, or you can also see it in this picture here. and you can install one or multiple heads inside your home. Sometimes those mini splits also come with mini ducts that you can install, or a mixture of ducts and heads. So that's really up to the consumer and also what works best for your specific home. This is just a very general comparison between ductless heat pumps and central systems. Every home is unique, so we do recommend that you talk to different heating professionals to help you find the most suitable system for your home. But generally speaking, both heat pumps, ductless or central system, can provide air conditioning and of course heating as well. But only a ductless heat pump can provide zonal heat, which means that it's not the central system that provides the same kind of heat throughout the whole house through ductwork, but that you can have different heads installed in different parts of your home that then can provide zonal heat. The central system, on the other hand, of course, requires ductwork, which gives it the name. And you might not know this yet, but heat pumps actually do provide air filtration and dehumidification. So really, generally speaking, the best choice for a central system heat pump you can make if your home already has ductwork. So if you already have an electric or a natural gas furnace in your home where the ductwork is in really good shape, or you really have that need for central heating and you enjoy that. Also, the central system heat pumps provide air filtration that's just a little bit more effective than the mini split heat pumps. So the mini split heat pumps are really, really great for homes that don't have any pre-existing ductwork, that have electric baseboards, or some homes that are a little more rural have electric baseboards and a wood stove. It would be very expensive to install ductwork throughout the whole house. They're great for smaller homes that have an open concept layout. They are great where the ductwork is very leaky and old for, these really old oil furnaces. And also they are absolutely great for homes that have a demand for zonal heating. So for instance, if you have a basement suite or an in-law suite and you want the people who live down there have the choice to heat at a different temperature level than you do. A lot of people always ask about the cost of heat pumps, and that's always a very tricky question because unfortunately it's one of these it depends questions, but it's true. So I will talk about average costs here, but before I do that, please be aware that this is just an average. So we got some data of heat pump installations, and the data really ranged a lot. There were heat pumps that were as low as $3,000, $4,000. And then there were heat pumps that were over $20,000. So you see the range is really, really broad, which gives it, makes it a little bit harder to just provide averages. So please take this with a grain of salt. What we display here is the higher end of the average heat pump installation cost. So we got natural gas furnaces here, and on average, they cost around $8,000, $9,000 in BC. There's currently a $1,000 rebate, which would lower the cost to $7,000. And then for central and ductless heat pumps, like I said, the higher end of the average cost range was around $12,000, with a lot of heat pumps being much higher and a lot of heat pumps being much lower. And at the moment, if you're switching from a fossil fuel, there's a $3,000 rebate, which we'll go into detail later. And that really makes heat pumps and gas furnaces very comparable in terms of installation costs. Also, what you need to know is in terms of operation costs, that is really hard to say. We get a lot of questions on the Energy Coach service about that. It is very, very hard to make a bold claim or give a ballpark number because every single home is so unique and it highly depends on the efficiency of the home and how well it's insulated and all these factors. So it's really a good idea to maybe start with an EnerGuide home evaluation before you get started to get a better idea if your home is, fit for a new heating system. All right, so why are we so excited about heat pumps though? There are a lot of reasons. Year-round comfort, climate-friendly home, it is the most efficient heating system. You get a healthier home, and unlike for a gas furnace or an oil furnace, you pay no carbon tax on your energy bill. So let's take a closer look at that. I only touched on the efficiency, and we get a lot of questions about how can a heat pump be 300 to 400% efficient? How is that even possible? So if you take electric baseboards or an electric furnace, for example, they have an efficiency of 100%. That means 100% of the electricity will be transformed into heat energy, which is really good. And even natural gas furnaces, the most high efficient gas furnaces nowadays have efficiencies of 97 to 99%. Now, a heat pump is so genius because instead of creating heat from scratch, so to speak, they take heat from the ambient air that is absorbed by the refrigerant, and they only add a little bit of extra electricity that you have to pay for in order to pump it up to a higher energy temperature level. So yeah, it uses heat that's already there and only adds a little bit of extra energy to get a high heat output. That makes the heat pump the most energy efficient heating system that you can possibly have. Now, for heat pumps, if you already have an electric heating system at home, it is the most cost-effective way to heat electrically because it is so much more efficient. And even with a high efficiency gas furnace, even though the hydro rates are still higher than natural gas rates at the moment, the efficiency of a heat pump is much, much higher than of a natural gas furnace. And then if you have a very well insulated home that is nice and airtight, then a heat pump can be a really, really great alternative that is just as cost effective. It's also the most climate friendly. And I know for a lot of us, it is really important to be a part of battling climate change. It will threaten all of us, and it is important to a lot of us to be as green as possible. So I have a graphic here that was published by the Capital Regional District. And what we see here is the same type of home that was modeled with an oil furnace, a gas furnace, and a heat pump. And in comparison, obviously an oil furnace is very, very, very carbon intensive. Natural gas also has a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. And in comparison to that, a heat pump has the greenhouse gas emissions, has 1% of the greenhouse gas emissions compared to an oil furnace. By just switching from a fossil fuel heating to a heat pump, you can significantly reduce your carbon footprint of your home, which will be more and more important in the future. So I kind of explained that already, but heat pumps do provide air filtration, which comes really handy if you or any of your household members have issues with allergies, dust, pollen, anything like that. And also it becomes very handy because unfortunately we get increasingly more forest fires in the summer, and the smoke can be a big toll on our health. So the air filtration can be very, very beneficial. It is a very, very easy system to use. We will get into the operation tips later, but it is a system that you set to your comfort level and you forget about it. You don't turn it off and on. It is very low maintenance, and I will show you how later. And of course, this is only true for the mini split ductless heat pumps, but it does provide zonal heating with a lot of people, especially in the Metro Vancouver region and also in Victoria. They have basement suites and they want different temperatures in the basement suite as upstairs, or they want to heat their bedrooms in a different way than the rest of the house, zonal heating is the solution for that. And of course, so we have a few testimonials here. They're all from the capital region, but Ted and Carol, for example, who live in Saanich, for them, it was really, really important to have a home that is fit for the future, that is, you know, the solution for climate change, or part of the solution at least. They have an electric vehicle, they have solar panels on the roof, and for them, it was also very important to have the best heating system that is out there currently, and that is the most climate friendly and efficient. You know, there are probably not a lot of people here on the webinar who do heat with wood, but if you do, then the great solution to a wood heated home is a mini split heat pump in many cases. No more cutting or hauling wood unless you just want to fire, you know, just for the ambience. And that is a great solution as well. So I hope you are pretty excited about heat pumps by now. Here are a few tips though that you should know before you buy a heat pump. First and foremost, we do highly recommend that you buy your system through a qualified installer, a qualified HVAC technician, and you avoid buying it yourself, wholesale or online. The good installers, they won't install those wholesale online systems. So it really makes a lot of sense to shop around for a high quality installer, to obtain multiple quotes from different contractors. And I will show you a resource where you can find those. And then we got the house as a system. This is something that's very, very important to know before you get a heat pump installed. So every home is unique, and every home's components work as one system. If you change any component in a home, it will affect others. For instance, if you install a new heating system in a very drafty and leaky home that's not very well insulated, then you're wasting a lot of energy and a lot of money, quite frankly, by heating a home that loses all that heat to the outside. So it is very important to address things like insulation levels, draftiness, air sealing, good windows before you get the heat pump installed, because then you can choose a heat pump that is sized smaller with a smaller capacity, which often means that it costs less, and it also costs less to operate. That is a very, very important thing to know. And you should make sure that the heat pump is properly sized for your home, designed for your climate. So folks in the Lower Mainland will need a different heat pump than someone in Prince Rupert, for example. And you should definitely talk to an HVAC technician to figure out if you need any supplementary heat, if you can just have an integrated electric backup, or what kind of supplemental heat you should have. So once you have bought your heat pump, you should definitely know a few things about operating a heat pump, because they work a little bit different than your conventional furnace, for example. Operating tip number 1, set it and forget it. So in a heat pump works actually the most efficient if you just set your thermostat to your comfort level, 21, 22 degrees, whatever you prefer, and then let it be. A lot of people who didn't get educated how to operate their heat pump, they will turn the heat pump off at night, or they will turn it off when they leave the house and then turn it back on and expect that heat pump to heat the home to 21 degrees right away. But this is not how heat pumps work. They do take quite a while to get to a certain temperature level because they run so continuously. But once they do, they run really steadily and maintain that temperature level. So turning it off is actually not beneficial at all. Operating tip number 2, if you are used to furnace heat, for example, a gas furnace, then you are used to intermittent hot blasts of air. That furnace really provides really hot air into your home through the ductwork. Heat pumps, in comparison, provide lower temperature heat when it blasts through the ductwork. That doesn't mean that your heat pump can't heat your home to the same temperature level, of course. Both the furnace and the heat pump will heat it to 21 degrees or whatever you set it to. It just means that the air that's coming out might feel a little bit colder in comparison. So for the transition period, you might have to set your thermostat a tiny little bit higher than what you're used to, and kind of just try to find your comfort level. In terms of maintenance, heat pumps don't require a lot of maintenance. Really regularly check the manufacturer's manual, even though none of us really likes to check manuals, it is worth it. Clean the indoor filters of that dust and pollen, especially, during that season. And if you have a mini split ductless heat pump, check the batteries in the remote control frequently, of course, because that's how you control the heat pump. Every spring and fall, you should check your outdoor unit of any debris, leaves, snow, and dirt. Just make sure nothing gets caught in that fan. And annually, we do recommend that you schedule a servicing appointment with your installer. That's one of the questions you can ask them right away when you shop around for a contractor. So what you can expect, like I said, is that there are no more intermittent blasts of hot air. Heat pumps provide lower temperature heat, but heat the home to the exact same temperature level. You will be able to expect changes in your hydro bill one way or another. If you have an electric heating system and you switch to a heat pump, you could very well expect lower hydro bills because your heat pump works so much more efficiently than a normal electric heating system. Now, if you have a fossil fuel heating system like oil or gas, then you might expect a higher hydro bill because all of a sudden you have a lot more electrical use in the home. By heating the home electrically, that is offset by a decrease in the fossil fuel bill. And a big point, outdoor noise. So those outdoor units of a heat pump, they do make some noise. However, nowadays heat pumps are much, much quieter and they can be installed in good locations. I know the Township of Langley has a bylaw about that where heat pumps can be installed, for instance, not right next to the neighbor or not under a bedroom window. And there is a bulletin about noise and heat pumps that you can learn from. You can, if noise is really a concern, ask your contractor to maybe scope out an extra quiet heat pump. They all have noise ratings. So the people who have installed a heat pump have pretty common opinions about that heat pump. A few years ago, there was this program called Oil to Heat Pump Program, which was an incentive program switching from oil to a heat pump. And those people who successfully completed the program, they got a survey. And in that survey, 97% of the people said they would install a heat pump again. They do not regret that decision. Even if they move to a different home, they would want a heat pump. And 81% even said that they were happy with their energy bills after installing the heat pump, which means quite a bit because all these people did switch from oil, so their hydro bill increased because all of a sudden they had more electrical load, but that was offset by a decrease in their oil bill, obviously. We also asked people, why was it important to you to install a heat pump? And 92% of those people said that it was just really important to them to get rid of oil. And a lot of people also really wanted to go with a more climate-friendly solution because really oil is, in terms of the greenhouse gases, the worst heating system that you can have. All right, rebates. I know a lot here are very, very interested about rebates, but before I go into detail, I just want to say right up front that this information that I'm going to go over is a lot of information and it can be a little bit overwhelming, I will introduce a really great resource, the CleanBC Energy Coach service. Though that's a team of very well-trained professionals who know everything about the rebates out there. And I know that most of you are from the Lower Mainland and from Langley. So it is a little bit more targeted to those folks. For all of you who aren't from that region, it is a really great idea to call the Energy Coach service if you have any specific questions. First of all, this is the website that I highly recommend visiting. It's betterhomesbc.ca. That's the CleanBC Better Homes program. It's a government-funded program and it is the information hub for homeowners, contractors, and energy advisors here in BC to learn about upgrades, to learn about windows, insulation, heat pumps, and especially to find rebates that are out there. So you see that the website has a rebate search tool, which I will talk about in a second. But the really great thing about the program is not only that they have this website, they also have the CleanBC Energy Coach service. And I do highly recommend that if you ever get stuck or before you even get started with your rebates, that you read on the website. And if you get confused or overwhelmed with the information, call an energy coach. They are not your typical call center. They actually really know their stuff. They're highly trained and they know everything about the rebates out there. So they can help you. You can access the website at betterhomesbc.ca. It's a toll-free phone number that you can call. And you can also email the Energy Coach service as well. You won't really have to wait on hold or anything. They are most of the time available right away. All right, but talking about the rebate search tool on the CleanBC Better Homes website, it's really great. You just have to answer a few questions. You indicate that you're renovating a home as opposed to building a new home. Then you type in your location, for example, Township of Langley, and you have to indicate how your home is currently heated, which is important because some rebate amounts they depend on how your home's heated, and some rebates are not available for different heating types. And then when you hit submit, you get a list of rebates that you can also filter for. And on each of those pages, you find all the information that you could possibly need in order to get that rebate. Some of you might have heard about double the rebates in the last few months. The double the rebate was a limited time offer that has now ended, but I quickly wanted to touch base on that. So folks who were switching from a fossil fuel to a heat pump could apply for a double the rebate promo code by March 31st. Again, registration has ended, but if any of you has gotten a promo code before March 31st, they can still install a heat pump by June 30th and get their rebate doubled. Similarly, that same thing was open for electrically and wood heated homes, but the registration for the promo code closed earlier. That closed on December 31st. But again, if any of you has gotten a promo code before those dates, they still have until June 30th to get a heat pump installed, and then they can get their rebate doubled. All the normal rebates are still available, so let's talk about them. Generally speaking, there are a few general rules about the heat pump rebates. You need to live in an eligible home. By an eligible home, the program means a single family home, side-by-side row home or townhome, side-by-side duplex, or mobile home on a permanent foundation. Then the amount for the heat pump rebate is dependent on the primary heating system that you're moving away from. And the heat pump has to become the primary heating system of the home. So you can't just install a heat pump for air conditioning. It really has to heat and cool your home. You can only get one rebate per primary space heating system, and the rebate won't exceed the cost of your heat pump. Not any heat pump out there qualifies for the rebates, it has to meet certain energy efficiency requirements and has to be found on the qualifying product list. And let's take a look here. So I'm going to go through a few different heating systems that you can move away from to the heat pump, and the rebate depends on that. First of all, electrically heated homes. So if you have a home that is heated with electricity, you can get a mini split heat pump and you can get $1,000 back. You can get a central system heat pump with ductwork throughout the house. You can get $2,000 back. Important to note about electrically heated homes is that those rebates are paid by BC Hydro. So if you are electrically heated at home, you have to first meet a minimum electricity consumption in order to be eligible. That is pretty easy to do. It's just a BC Hydro tool that they have that you can find at bchydro.com/hero/eligibility. It's also on that Better Homes website, that link. And you just need your BC Hydro account number and your square footage, and the tool will tell you right away if you do qualify for this rebate or not. The other really important thing to note is by electrically heated, we mean electric baseboards, electric furnace, electric boiler, but you cannot replace an existing heat pump with a new heat pump and get a rebate at this point. We got wood heated homes. Not many of you have those, I assume. The rebates are the exact same. For mini splits, it's $1,000. For a central system, it's $2,000. Now, sometimes it's a little bit tricky to determine, is my home wood heated or electrically heated, because a lot of folks have electric baseboards and wood. In that case, they would also just use this tool from BC Hydro, put in their hydro account number and their square footage. If you fail the tool, that means that electricity is not your primary heating system. It means that wood is. If you succeed, then electricity would be your primary heating system. Again, if you ever get confused about that, call an energy coach. And then we got the fossil fuel heated homes. So by fossil fuel, we mean oil, propane, or natural gas, which a lot of you have here on the call. And the rebate is basically the same for all these different types of heat pumps. For mini split ductless heat pumps, it's $3,000. Then we got these super high efficient, we call them tier 2 central system heat pumps with ductwork throughout the home, $3,000. And we also have those dual fuel heat pumps that I was talking about earlier. Those are the ones that have a gas furnace as a backup system. That rebate is $3,000. There are a few more. So this is also a central system with ductwork throughout the home, but it's called tier 1 because it's not quite as efficient as the tier 2. That's why the rebate amount is lower. It's $1,200 instead of $3,000. And we got a different type of heat pump that's just not that common. It's an air to water heat pump. It works the exact same way like any other heat pump, but instead of heating air for forced air, it heats water to distribute through radiators or in-floor heating. So that's a great option if you have a boiler at home. $3,000 as well. And we got those heat pumps that heat both your space heating, hot water demand, and your normal domestic hot water demand. We call them combination systems. And that rebate is higher because it's basically space and water heating in one. And that's a $4,300 rebate. And I will get into the next one in a little bit in more detail, but the electrical service upgrade rebate is available for folks who switch from a fossil fuel, who have to upgrade their electric panel, because that can be very costly. And there's a rebate of $500 available. And we haven't talked about water heaters at all, but there is also a heat pump water heater, which again, instead of heating air, it just heats water, but it uses the exact same technology. And that rebate is $1,000 if you want to switch your domestic hot water as well. So I was just talking about the electric service upgrade. Some folks who don't have an electric heating system already, they have to upgrade their panel in order to accommodate the new electric heating system. And there is a rebate out there if you have to upgrade that from oil, gas, or propane. It's a $500 rebate, which comes in really handy. That's a bundle rebate, only available if you also get a heat pump installed. Okay, as if there is not enough information, there is a great alternative if you would rather get financing instead of a rebate. So for those who don't want to pay up front for the whole heat pump and then get a chunk of money back, there is a financing option, which is really great. It's called the CleanBC Low Interest Financing Program. And you can receive 0% financing for your heat pump over 5 years. Those heat pumps have to be installed by a finance registered contractor. So those are contractors who have registered with the program, and they basically do the whole process with you. And you can only access that if you are switching from oil, gas, or propane. It's not available for electricity to heat pump conversion at the moment. Yeah, so like I said, you can get 0% financing or 4.99 for the lower efficiency heat pumps. And that is over 5 years. And the loans are between $1,000 and $40,000. So it's a really great alternative, but it is an alternative. So you cannot get a rebate and low interest financing. You have to choose either or. Okay, there's another awesome program in regards to heat pumps out there. It's called the group purchase rebate. And that really just rewards groups of homeowners who work together from switching from a fossil fuel. So again, it's only available for fossil fuel heated homes. And you can either join a group or you can start a group and then receive an additional rebate to your normal heat pump rebate or to your low interest financing, depending on the group size. So you can check out this program and on the Better Homes website. It can be found in the search tool as well, but you can find it under betterhomesbc.ca/rebates/GPR. That stands for Group Purchase Rebate. It's a great program. Some of your contractors might have started a group for all their customers, so it's something worth asking, or ask around in your neighborhood. Maybe some other people also want to switch out their heating system. Okay, contractors though, how do we even get started with this? The choice of contractor is really important. And you can, in terms of the rebates, you can really work with any contractor that you'd like. However, on the CleanBC website, there is a contractor search tool. We call them program registered contractors, and they are listed because they went through additional rebate program training with the program. So they are knowledgeable about the processes, about the requirements, which I find is a really, really great place to start. You just go on that website. It's betterhomesbc.ca and then /PRC for program registered contractor. But you can also find them in the menu, in our menu on the website under finding a contractor. You just select that you're trying to find a heat pump contractor. You put in your location, Township of Langley, for instance, and you get a list of contractors that you can contact. Again, we do recommend to shop around, contact at least 3 different ones, get quotes, and see what they can do for you. And then we got the finance registered contractors. So don't get them confused. Some of them are the same. They're both finance and program registered. But the difference is that for the normal heat pump rebate, you can work with whatever contractor you want. But for the low interest financing program, you have to work with a finance registered contractor because they have to first get registered to be able to offer this loan to you. So that one is under a similar page. That's betterhomesbc.ca/FRC for Finance Registered Contractor. Again, if you get confused, please call an energy coach. And that's where we are here. So if you have any questions about all these rebates out there or where to get started, call the Energy Coach service. It's a toll-free hotline, and you can also reach them at ask@betterhomesbc.ca. And then there's also the contact information for the program partners. So BC Hydro and FortisBC, they administer the program, they review the applications, and you can reach them under these contact information as well. Then we got the Green Buildings team here from the Township of Langley on the call as well. Yeah, so those two here are on the call, and I think this is the perfect time to answer your questions. Sam, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, everyone. So if you guys do have any questions, feel free to unmute yourselves and we'll go one at a time if we can.
Hi there, it's Susan Higginbotham, Salt Spring Island. First, I'd like to thank you very much. It was a lovely presentation.
Thank you.
All kinds of information. I can't contain it all, but it was great. Just a quick question. In terms of the rebate, if, like you said, it was 12,000, then the rebate, say is 3,000, drops down to 9. Does that include the installation, or is that just the purchase?
So all rebate amounts would be the entire cost of installation. So that would be labor from the contractor, including the system. So all costs of the installation.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, and Sam, if you have any questions from the chat box as well that you wanted to read out for everyone, that will work too.
Yeah, we do have a question, Ellie. Maybe you want to answer this one about in-floor systems. I know you were chatting quickly about that.
Yeah, so I know I primarily talked about forced air heat pumps because they're just the most commonly used in BC, we find. But there are a lot of folks, especially in Vancouver, who have a boiler system at home, like a natural gas boiler. And those, for those, air to water heat pumps are a really great option. And heat pumps actually are amazing for in-floor heating. So they are called air to water, or sometimes they're called hydronic heat pumps. If you want to look into that, there's also a rebate for those. If you are switching from oil, propane, or gas, you can get a $3,000 rebate.
Thank you, Elena. And we also have a question, I think, from Al French. If you want to unmute yourself and go ahead.
Yeah, I hope I didn't miss this part of the presentation or anything, but my wife and I are planning on building a secondary suite and heating it with a totally different heating system. Right now, the house is on a hot water boiler system with baseboard heating. We weren't contemplating changing that, but would there be any kind of rebate available for a heat pump on our new addition?
So additions or the construction of a new secondary suite, so they wouldn't be considered eligible for a rebate. So it does need to be your existing home or an existing secondary suite that has at least 12 months of consecutive billing history. So in other words, at least a year old. So if you were to build that new in your home, it wouldn't be eligible for rebates through that portion of the CleanBC program.
Okay, thank you very much.
Of course, no problem. Do we have any other questions?
Yeah, and if you happen to have any questions, again, maybe I'll just have the slide open to the Energy Coach service again, if you happen to have any in the upcoming days, but really check out the website, betterhomesbc.ca. Use that rebate search tool. There's a lot of resources of learning about heat pumps. I know that was a lot of information condensed into a webinar. And then, yeah, call the Energy Coach service or email them before you get started or if you get confused.
Definitely, yeah. And we do have another question here. I'll answer that one quickly. So it's about
Cool.
finding heat pump contractors. So if you are looking for a place to get started to find a willing heat pump installer, a great place to start is the program Contractor search tool. And they do, the reason why they're on this list here is they do go through some additional training and qualifications with the program. So they do some quality assurance and have some shadow visits for their quality of installation and have to follow some best practices guide. So they are a great place to get started if you are looking for a heat pump installer that really knows their stuff and is familiar with the rebates as well.
Yeah, and you can find that on the Better Homes website. Either you go to the little menu button and click on finding a contractor, or the direct link is betterhomesbc.ca/PRC for program registered contractor.
And again, we are recording this webinar, so there will be a recording sent to everyone, as well as a summary of some of the questions that did come up throughout the presentation. And I'd like to take the time again to thank everyone for attending today.
Yeah, thank you so much for your time.